Invisible again.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Tuesday. We have the Triple A's plus Miss M. We have Andrea in the house. We have Anitra. We have Miss M, better known as Momo, and me, August. Welcome, everyone. We hope that you are ready for the Tuesday show.
Turn uh, the volume down or mute the TV, please.
As you know, As you know, on Tuesdays, we always bring you the latest and greatest. And here we have what is going on. So tonight, we do have Fauci on deck from Anitra. We have Miss Andrea is going to teach you a new term that a lot of people are not aware of, but you need to know. And also, Miss M is in the house because she has a new series and she'll let you know. But for my flight deck, it is from August desk. So this week from my desk, what I want to let you know about is yes, they are playing in our faces. And here is our first item as to why I feel they're playing in our faces. Let's go.
Migrants are returning to Morocco from the Spanish enclave of Ceuta after a deadly border rush killed as many as 86 people, according to local government officials. Some victims drowned, others crushed while trying to climb the breakwater that holds the border fence. About 60,000 people crossed from Morocco since Thursday. Authorities say most have now returned voluntarily. The Spanish enclave is home to 86,000 people. Many migrants reported difficulties finding food and shelter. Ceuta is located on the North African coast and shares a 5-mile border with Morocco. Spain Civil Guard officers installed a 1,600-foot floating barrier along the sea border Saturday. Meanwhile, residents rallied against a planned far-right anti-migrant demonstration, forcing organizers to cancel it. This is 42-year-old Mujahid Ahmed of Sudan, who made the trip to Ceuta.
So before we even go into that, let's talk about it. Guys, these young people are not leaving Morocco just because they want to. When you don't have food, you don't have a way of life, trust me, swimming across the water is like your best option at the moment. And this is what we need to make sure we understand. When the United States economy is not at its top line, it is a trickle down effect to everyone else. And some people don't care about it, but it is affecting because all of us have people around the world and it is affecting these young people. So I want you to really, really keep that in mind. Mama, you know anything about this story?
This after you told me about it, I went in and because I had not heard about it, because you don't see this on legacy media. That's why I like Democracy Now. They dive into news items that have been forgotten or put aside. This is just one example of the global effects of us shutting down USAID and our soft power in the world is deteriorating. And as we go, it goes globally. And there aren't enough countries to step in and replace what America and American aid had been doing. So this is very, very sad.
It is very much so. Andrea?
Well, what I wanted to say is we're seeing that Donald Trump does not know how to run a country. And just like when I go into the grocery stores and say you buy fresh fruit and vegetables, and they go old within a day or two after you purchase them, because we have too much produce right now in some of these stores, and then with and then with all of the meat is getting all the bugs. You know, we talked about it, the screw worms, because the cattle was not moving like it used to move. So we have a president and a vice president and a head of the military that doesn't know what they're doing, and all they're trying to do is enrich themselves instead of thinking of us as one community. And until we think of the world as one, we're going to keep having this problem.
Absolutely. Anitra, weigh in.
Well, I was thinking about what Momo said, and we have a thing in nursing that says where the head goes, the body goes, and we're the head, and that's the body. And even though we're not as ahead as we used to be, we still kind of set the standards, and people run on the USD and our money and everything. So the example we're setting and the things we're doing to hurt others is very troubling, and it's going to continue to lead to stuff like this here and abroad, here and abroad, because people are getting sick and tired of being poisoned and hungry and thirsty and marginalized. And I think it's a symptom of the bigger picture.
Absolutely. I'm gonna close out this segment on Sweta. These young people are really hurting. When you are in Morocco as a tourist, even vendors are not able to, meet their daily quotas. So this is something serious. Please take the time and look into it. And it's more because they're saying it's under control. How can something be under control and these young people are starving? It is not under control. They just don't want people not to travel. And I have a problem with that. But I'll keep you informed. Also, from my desk, this is the next segment that is going on.
Abandoning plans to create a fund that is meant to compensate allies of the president.
That is according to Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who says that the idea received political backlash from both sides of the aisle and placed setbacks in the courts. Fox News senior national correspondent Kevin Cork has more.
We are not moving forward with the fund, period.
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche telling a House panel the Justice Department is scrapping plans to create President Trump's highly criticized anti-weaponization fund.
The reasons for the fund is something that President Trump talked about for a long time, which is the fact that there were a lot of people in this country who had their government weaponized against them.
The proposed $1.8 billion fund was meant to compensate the president's political allies, who he claimed were targeted during President Biden's administration. Settlements could have even gone to Trump supporters who were part of the January 6th riots at the Capitol.
We've heard from both Republicans and Democrats, constituents and Americans across the country about this fund. And I think they would love to be reassured that this fund will not progress.
The fund came out of a settlement between the president and the IRS.
So they're talking about that fund. This is how they're playing in our faces. And you need to understand that. Don't think as soon as he's appointed, Trump is not going to go backdoor through his Supreme Court and try to get this moving forward to people that vandalized, that took our capital and made it a mockery. Don't think they're not playing in your faces. We are being played daily. I'm going to go to Anitra.
Sorry, they were gonna hang Mike Pence in the yard. Built the whole thing, bought a kit. I still think about that day. If it had been anybody else, my God, what would have happened that day? And I think it's disgusting. It's real disgusting. But what's happened is we won. So hey.
Well, with that, we haven't won yet because the two senators that are going to, that said that they was putting the brakes on, now they're clearing him. So now he's cleared to move forward for the vote on the floor. Andrea, talk back to me.
Well, I was watching it this morning, and then I had to leave for a doctor appointment. And when I came back, I said, I wonder if he got cleared because they had changed their mind, and I couldn't understand it. Because after you saw what happened January 6th, there's no way. Not only would I not have elected Donald Trump, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't even think about giving him some money to put in their hands or making Blanche attorney general. I don't know what people are thinking. I mean, we keep doing the wrong thing every time, and the only thing I can think of is related to is Epstein. That's the only thing to me that makes sense, where we would let someone destroy our country, watch other countries suffer, kidnap somebody's president, start a war in Iran. USAID doesn't have any food, and now listening to people on independent media today talk about that other countries need money to help their people be nurses. We need help here because they've taken away nursing degrees here in our country.
I
We
want to
need
come
help.
back around to that because that stuck a craw. I have a feather I want to an itch I want to scratch on that. So I'll
Okay.
come back to that one, Andrea, because that's a good point. Momo, anything you want to unveil?
Yeah, I just it was all cover. It was all so performative. Them, oh, we need this document signed. We need these assurances. The answer should have been no. Just period.
Period.
End of story. No, no conditions, anything. Um and what he did, posting that on, I don't know if it was X or if it was Truth Social or whatever, it's not a legally binding document. It was
No.
not signed by both parties. So, as August said, they're playing in our faces.
And we need to make sure we're calling it out. Stop playing in our faces. All right, let me go to the next one. That is definitely something that you need to know, but I'm switching gears. This one is not playing in our faces. You guys really need to know about this. All right, so let's go ahead and play it.
And while it's a major move towards minimizing data sharing and identity theft, it's really important to know what the Dropped Act can and cannot do to protect you. So here with more is privacy expert Ron Zayas of Iron Wall by Incogni. Hello. Thank you for coming and chatting about this because we have questions, sir. So the California Drop Act went into effect yesterday. That's August 1st, but it was put into law years ago, almost 10 years ago.
It was, and there was a lot of setup that needed to be had, and there were legal challenges, but California really has been a forerunner on this.
Okay.
And the fact that consumers can now start to see all the work that has been done is exceptional.
Okay.
How do Californians register to have their information removed from hundreds of data brokers?
They go to the DROP website, which is privacy.ca.gov.
Okay.
And it's really easy. It takes less than 5 minutes. You provide the information you want to provide on there. They verify that you're a California resident, open to anybody who's a California resident, and then the system goes into place.
Let's go back to when this was first put into law. What is the purpose of this entire effort? Let's really break it down for the person at home. So they're going, this is something I want to sign up for or not.
So the main strategy behind all of this is that California is saying you have a right to privacy.
Okay.
There are companies that collect information on you when you order a pizza, when you get your car repaired, when you go online.
Anything you sign up
anything you do,
for.
anything you do,
Yes.
anything you do, they're collecting your information. And it's not just where you live and what you do, but then they start to make inferences. How do you vote? What are your, what are your religious preferences? Things like that. They gather that up and they sell it, to people who are maybe companies. They sell it to the government, and they sell it to people who could be, trying to steal your information.
And when we opt
The
in,
dark web. The dark web is where they're selling your information. Trust and believe. Money talk, BS walk. So you got to know this. So California, we lift our hats to you in making sure that you're protecting your people. So because we do have a Californian here, let me hear from you, Monique.
Yeah, I honestly wish that the regulations were a little bit stiffer, because ever since they started deregulating things, I get maybe 20 calls a day talking about a personal loan that I never applied for, or just, I mean, phone calls from numbers that I don't recognize. Thankfully, I have my phone set up where my phone never rings, but occasionally I'll look down and there's like 20 calls. And I never used to get that many spam calls when I have my spam blockers up, but I have spam blockers up and I'm still getting these calls. So they're definitely selling your information every time you go online. Just be very, very careful when you're ordering anything, when you're buying anything. Uncheck all the boxes except for the box that you absolutely have to check to proceed with whatever it is that you're doing, because that's how they're getting all of our information.
Reading is fundamental. Make sure you're doing that. Anitra, you want to weigh in on this one?
I had my identity stolen and destroyed my life. I ended up homeless. I know the ramifications of people messing around with your stuff, and it's very scary. Um, anyway, I think consumer protection is great, and I do like that iOS system is kind of like, hey, these people have been having access to this for 6 months. You still want them to have it. The guardrails up with the iOS system, but every time they get your information, they're just going to sell it and exploit you. My aunt today called me and told me she got a call about a package that she's supposed to have delivered from Amazon or something. And they had on their call back immediately. It's urgent. Well, what if somebody's not that savvy and they call back and then a little bit of money they have? Because this is what I learned. They'll take a lot from you, or if you got $10, they want 5 or 7 of it. They don't care if you get $7 from 700 people. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
they don't care. So just be real careful. And I think that's great for California residents.
Andrea, is there anything you want to weigh in on before we move on to the next, my last topic? It seemed like Andrea's on mute. We're gonna,
Oh, no, I'm
yeah.
not. I'm not on
Okay.
mute.
Okay.
Okay. No, I said no, I didn't have anything to add to that subject because it's just all a mess. It's just all a mess, and we got to figure a way out.
All right. With that said, we do have a couple of wins, people, and I'm gonna let.
Most people out there thought we were going to lose this case. I mean, if I had listened to the naysayers, we never would have bothered fighting. Hi, this is Mark Elias, founder of Democracy Docket. And as you know, I am also a practicing lawyer. And this case, Watson versus Republican National Committee, well, it's quite personal to me because I and my law firm litigated this case from the trial court through the Fifth Circuit and all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. This was a major victory for voting in the United States. The Republican National Committee has been scheming and plotting for years to try to limit mail-in voting. Well, it was the most cynical scheme that they've come up with yet. They argued that the federal election day statute, the law that says that elections for Congress and president in the United States are held on the Tuesday following the first Monday in November. Well, they argued that this required that all ballots cast by mail be received by election offices by that election day, and that ballots that were mailed by that election day, that we know have been mailed by election day because they were postmarked, but were received in the days afterwards, well, those had to be thrown in the trash. Now, this would not have affected just a handful of votes. I mean, this would have affected hundreds of thousands of ballots, maybe as many as 1 million in presidential years, that would have now been thrown in the trash. Now, why is the Republican National Committee doing this? Why did they spend millions and millions of dollars on this lawsuit alone? It's because they think that they'd gain partisan advantage from it. If I had listened to all the pundits and all the prognosticators and the people who never show up in a courtroom and ever fight for the voting rights of real Americans, but rather just sit in their air-conditioned offices and tell me why it is I can never win in court. If I had listened to them, well, where would we be right now? But we got to.
I say that again. Here's another topic. They're playing in our faces. And I'm so glad everyone is joining us today. I wish there were more people understanding because these are critical topics that you need to be aware of because yes, Nolan Wells is absolutely critical because we need to know what happened to that young man. But nevertheless, what is going on in our government? It is our lives at stake. So, yes, they're playing in our faces. And I'm going to just read off real quickly to end my segment. I'm going to show you how they're really playing in our faces. What is not being talked about in our faces? The Epstein file. The SAVE Act is kind of like pushed to the side because they're doing dirty dirt, dirty dirt. Gas prices. He's not trying to fix that. Housing, student loans. These students are out here trying to get jobs that there are no jobs to get. If you don't know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, good luck. Let's talk about food prices. When people's stomachs are touching, it hurts. You go to McDonald's with 2 kids and you got to spend damn near $50. Talk back to me. The economy is slowing down. ICE. Don't think ICE went away. They're lurking in the shadows. ICE is still there. This is how they playing in our faces. If nobody talks about it, then guess what? We could do our dirt. Let's think about immigration because ICE and immigration walk hand in hand. Now, a judge here in New York indicated that, yeah, ICE can wear masks. So they put that on hold. What is going on? I did mention jobs, right? Huh. So they are playing in our faces. Last but not least, and I think which is number one, is corruption. Know that the government is definitely on that corruption tip. And if I wash your hands, I wash your ass, I wash your back, I wash your front. Nah. And Piero, I got dibs that she's up next. What do you say?
That's what
So
they said. She's next.
I'm going to end my segment with yes, they're playing in your faces. They're trying to put Todd Blanche in front of you for the weaponization. But just know that the lies continue. Back over to you, Andrea, with however else they're playing in our faces.
Well, the only subject that they know is corruption. And with all the information you just talked about, I'll add even one more thing that I had not heard the term, and the term was the third rail. And I don't know if any of you out there have heard of the third rail. Social Security is called the third rail of American politics because touching it proposes major benefit cuts or structural changes. It's considered lethal to a politician's career. The term comparing the program to a subway's high voltage electrical rail originating in the early 1980s. That's what and the origin of the term coined in 1982 by Kirk O'Donnell, an aide to House Speaker at that time, Tip O'Neill. The third rail is affecting us this year in 2 ways. Right now, Part D, uh, our Part D, our medicine, our prescriptions, the stuff that us old people need, the older we get to help us sustain life, and COLA, the cost of living adjustment. So we're going to play a couple of videos to first see, talk about it so that we can talk about it more on the other side.
When Republicans actually do address the things that voters say are top of mind, things like healthcare and affordability, they seem to be trying to make their political fate worse. The Wall Street Journal was first to report on the Trump administration not renewing a subsidy put in place during Joe Biden's presidency that keeps premium costs down for people on Medicare. Quote, the move will eliminate a program that is giving insurance companies an estimated $3.6 billion in subsidies this year to blunt increases in premiums for the Medicare prescription plans known as Part D. The program will end after 2026, according to administration officials. High drug costs are a perennial political issue, especially for seniors on fixed incomes. And healthcare affordability is expected to be a focus in the midterm elections. Roughly 25 million people have Part D plans, and they will learn about their 2027 rates in the fall. So right before voters head to the polls in the fall, many of them, and these are the most active participants in midterm elections, are going to find out their healthcare premiums are going up. Policies like these, along with the deeply unpopular war in Iran that is also ushering in soaring gas prices. Oh, and along with corruption on a scale we have never seen before in this country, attacks on human rights and the weaponization of our government is what Donald Trump is offering the American voters.
That's it. You can stop it there, August. Thank you. Why it remains politically dangerous, voter popularity is one of the most widely supported and successful social programs in U.S. history, vital to preventing poverty among older adults. Right now, I called today to see how much my prescriptions are, and the ones for today, just 3 prescriptions would be like $150. And I praise God that I don't have to use that I'm not diabetic, because people that have diabetes are really hurting. If you got a really, autoimmune disease, one of my prescriptions I have to get filled through the company because I cannot afford the medicine at all. The medicine by itself is $90,000 per prescription. And they, based on my income and my situation, have elected to provide it to me at no cost. But starting next year, they're not talking about doing it for free. I don't know what's going to happen. I want to play another video for you, and if August is ready, because we need to know that the third rail, again, it affects Social Security. It affects everything that has to do with Social Security, your retirement. Like I said, the cost of living adjustment and your prescription plans are the 2 things that are most vital right now.
I just want to make sure that, Jamie, if you're out there, we know that you mentioned about you're very concerned. So we want to bring you to the front and make sure that to see how we can help you solve some of this. So this is why we're playing it, and hopefully others.
On this time, I like to give you the early read on what the Social Security Cost of Living Adjustment, or COLA, could be for this next year. Because for the millions of people who are already collecting Social Security, this number affects your budget, your planning, your life, okay? And for those of you not yet on Social Security, this affects how you should be planning ahead. So here's where things stand. The Senior Citizens League, a nonpartisan senior advocacy group that tracks this data closely, they just released their updated estimate for the 2027 cost of living adjustment. And as I said, this last estimate early in the summer was that we could see the Social Security inflation adjustment come in between 3.9 and 4.2%. They're now projecting just 3.8%. That's not terrible, and it's a full 1% higher than last year, but still it's not great news. Why did the number come down? The most recent inflation report is the primary reason. The June CPI report came in around 3.5% inflation for the year from June to June, and that's a big drop from 4.2 posted from May to May. Now, what does this 3.8% actually mean for you? The average Social Security check right now is around $1,900 a month, so a 3.8% increase would add roughly $72, $73 a month on top of that. So that'd move you up to around $2,000 on average per month, and that's approximately a $900 a year increase. How much of that will get eaten up by Medicare increases, we don't know, but it's likely to be a big chunk. Here's something most people don't realize about this calculation. The COLA is not based on the general or the normal CPI number you hear about in the news every single month. The one that I just reported came in much lower than expected. It's based on a very specific version called the CPIW. The W stands for urban wage earners and clerical workers. The problem, or the interesting part about that, is that actually tracks younger working individuals, not retirees. And some critics, I would as well argue, it doesn't fully reflect what seniors actually spend money on. Healthcare, for instance, is one of the biggest expenses you'll face in retirement, and that tends to inflate much faster than this CPIW. So far, we're just projecting what the cost of living adjustment will be for next year. Here's how it's actually calculated, though. You take the CPIW for the third quarter of this year, so that's July, August, and September of 2026, and you compare it to the CPIW for the third quarter of last year. So that's July, August, and September of 2025. And the difference between those two is the COLA, the Social Security Cost of Living Adjustment for 2027. It's a simple formula, but the inputs matter a lot. And we're just entering that third quarter. So measuring that is going to be picking up here over the next few months. The official announcement comes out in October, November. So we'll have to wait until then to see what the actual number is. But until then, 3.8% is the estimate today, and I'll keep you up to date on that. Now,
Okay, well, right now, shaking the third rail, reforming Social Security, U.S. politicians, policymakers, and ordinary citizens are now talking openly about a topic that has long been taboo: altering the nation's Social Security system. Right now, sometimes it sounds like they're talking a lot of gibberish, and AARP is talking about that it should end up, our cost of living adjustment should be anywhere from 3.6 to 3.8%. If that's the case, it's going to amount to, we get an additional $90. So they'll take the average American. The average American right now is making about $1,900, $1,910. It'll take you up to $2,000. But the cost of the prescriptions can just wipe all of that out. You're not going to have any money. And that's why, even like August said, Jamie, I had to go through the company. I had to fill out a financial form, and the doctor had to fill out his part, and we had to submit that to the matter of fact, I'm going through that process again right now just to make sure, because we need these prescriptions just to sustain life. When I don't take my prescriptions, I actually can't even move. I actually cannot even move. And I praise God that I can move today. So I wanted everybody to at least think about, when you hear third rail, the third rail, that you're not thinking about a railroad, that it actually is Social Security. And anybody that touches Social Security historically is supposed to get impeached. But we have a president that nobody wants to impeach. Next year, this new so this Part D is supposed to be increased by $3 billion. They're passing that $3 billion down to us. They want us to pay it. So how are we going to pay $3 billion with $90 a month? So you have Donald Trump, who wants to win his midterm election in November. The information about how much is going to be, if it's 3.6 or 3.8, will come out on October 14th of this year. And I want everyone to listen up. And even if they give us 3.8, it's still not going to cover prescriptions. It's not going to cover prescriptions. It's not going to. Our rent is escalating, like she said. Our gas prices are escalating, the cost of food, and the food is actually spoiling in the stores. So, like I said, you bring it home one day and it's spoiled the next day. It's not even lasting, this food, because we have the food costs so much people can't buy it. and they're putting little magnetic strips. I don't know if they're doing it in your neighborhood, but where I live, they've been putting magnetic strips on the meat so that you can't just take it out the store without paying for it. The only time I've usually seen that is when they put it on clothes or a high-end item. They're putting it, I'm seeing steaks for $50 and $67. I can't buy a steak for $50 or $67. So I want you, again, it's a political term. The third rail, listen up, make sure you're voting, make sure you're getting your other family members to vote. This is so crucial. I don't know how to express it. It's so crucial.
Like they said, stop playing in our faces. You have the option to make sure you demand from this government in November. Midterms is here. It's time to step up. Don't get caught in the little stuff. So what, that person don't look nice? So what, this is going on? Make sure that individual that you're voting for is looking out for your interests, because you felt for 2 years almost now what it feels like for someone not to think about you, but to think about their own pockets. Thank you, Andrea.
That big, beautiful bill is supposed to go into effect January 1st. There are 20 million people that will even lose health care. It's going to get worse.
Vote,
I'm
vote,
praying y'all help
vote,
us.
vote, vote, vote. With that said, thank you, Andrea. Great topic. Third rail, people, remember that. And also, that's about your Social Security, your medical Part D, and also that big, ugly bill that is about to kick in. Please vote. Please. We can't stress it enough. But you know what time it is? Time now is 8:05 in the East. So guess what? It's time for what? It's history time with our Momo. Go ahead, Miss Mo.
Okay, well, tonight I'm taking a little pivot in August. Instead of prominent people in history, I'm going to be talking about the history of foods and different culinary cuisines from around the world. But I'm going to start with soul food and the origins of soul food. It's actually created by Southern slaves, enslaved people. They were given very, very meager weekly rations, scraps, leftovers from the table, and they had to figure out how to make nourishing meals for their families with that. And so that is how soul food came to be. It was rations and scraps, and some slaves would plant hidden gardens with, they would forage for wild like collard greens and dandelion greens and things like that. They put it together. They also had substitutions, because a lot of the crops that they would have in West Africa, they couldn't grow here. So they would have to adapt local ingredients to try to put cuisines together. Soul food is the flavors and the foundations. They had to be creative because they weren't given much. So they had to learn how to survive on what they could find and what was given to them. And of course, we've adapted over the years, and now it's actually food that people seek out. But the origination of it was just based on survival, really, and trying to get your family as nutritious a meal as you could put together with the limited supplies that you had. And we have a video now that explains a little bit more about it.
All right.
For millions of Americans, when you say comfort food, we're talking soul food. Cornbread, black-eyed peas, collard greens, mac and cheese, and sweet potato pie. And don't leave out regional dishes: peach cobbler, shrimp and grits, hop and john, numerous barbecues, Maryland blue crab, and chitlins. Soul food, a collection of regional cuisines, found its start in one of the most impactful human rights violations in world history. Enslaved people took meager rations and imagined a food tradition that incorporates complex umami flavor with locally sourced ingredients. So how did these beloved dishes transform from morsels for survival into a thriving source of cultural culinary pride? The story of soul food starts in Western and Central Africa. Here, communities developed unique methods of cultivating rice and frying meats. They ate what was nearby: okra, cowpeas, African peaches and eggplant, taro, plantain, and a variety of leafy greens. Marinated meat was complemented with often spicy sauces, and scooping food with fufu or bread was common. Recipes were spread through oral tradition, and in many West African cultures, women organized community meals. This all changed drastically with the transatlantic slave trade. Oral tradition in African descendant communities includes stories of indigenous African seeds braided into women's hair before the torturous sea journey. It's hard to confirm these accounts. As you can assume, historical records of the time didn't respect the resilience of the enslaved. However, we do know that eventually slave ships did stock West African staples to help improve survival rates of the enslaved. Here we see the beginnings of African people preserving their indigenous food. Remember, some of the people kidnapped were already skilled farmers. West African crops were stolen to feed both captive and crew. Women cooked starches from home, replacing the horse beans and rotting meat they were initially forced to eat. The newly enslaved Africans used every opportunity to ensure that if they survived, their ancestors' seeds would survive with them. This effort led to the introduction of dozens of new species to the Americas. From 1501 to 1867, almost 13 million Africans were transported across the Atlantic. Of the 10 million people who survived the journey, only 4% were sent to the US. Here, a group of captured people converted slave rations, French cooking techniques, Native American crops, and African agricultural knowledge into what we now call soul food. From the 16th to the 19th centuries, enslaved cooks in America fed people in the fields, in the main house, and were ready to serve any guest at any time of day. But what diet could possibly sustain a person with a 16 to 18-hour workday? Well, it couldn't be the slave rations, which were as little as 5 pounds of starch and a few pounds of meat per week. Even worse, rations were reduced for people who were pregnant, elderly, or young. So how could this feed an entire family? Many of the most iconic soul foods you can enjoy today, collard greens, red beans and rice, ham hocks, cornbread, chitlins, fried fish, pig feet, stemmed out of necessity. Some enslaved people petitioned to not only hunt and gather local plants, but to keep garden plots to supplement their malnourished diets. They planted the same crops as indigenous people and included sweet potatoes, corn, beans, and squash in their recipes. Watermelon, grown from seeds carried over on slave ships, were planted as a saving grace for field workers during hot days in the sun. Enslaved people also grew okra plants, which could be used for soups and medicines. They noted what indigenous people like the Haudenosaunee and Cherokee ate and modified ancient dishes to fit their new climate. Soul Food's iconic chicken dishes may be due to laws or slave codes that dictated how slaves could behave. There was a loophole in these codes. Enslaved people, typically unpaid and barred from ownership, could keep chickens, sell them in markets, and save the proceeds. These garden-raised chickens provided necessary sustenance and in some cases allowed people to buy their freedom. They used all parts of the chicken: feet, neck, gizzards, and used frying techniques they knew traditionally. They observed indigenous methods of smoking meats and drying fruits as a means of food preservation. Enslaved people preserved food in potato holes for times of need or resistance, as some of their ancestors did in Igbo culture. These cooking methods laid the groundwork for barbecue. Unfortunately, enslaved people's skills as farmers and chefs were turned into a public joke. Minstrel shows and cartoons spread harmful imagery of Black Americans, mocking the food enslaved people cultivated for sustenance. This legacy lasted long after the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. In the late 19th century, Black Americans were oppressed by laws defining what freedom meant for their communities. These laws tried to prevent them from gathering in groups or owning land. That didn't stop newly freed people during Reconstruction from starting catering businesses, selling plates on trains, or through food carts. Black Americans became private chefs and created cookbooks to define their down-home cooking. Millions of Black people fled Southern segregation during the Great Migration. This regional cuisine was transported from the Deep South throughout America to places like Chicago, New York, LA, and Philadelphia. In fact, my own grandfather, Claude Suggs, was part of this exodus from the South. He moved from North Carolina and became a street vendor in Philadelphia, where he sold plants for people's urban gardens and taught people how to grow their own fruits and vegetables. By the time the phrase soul food was popularized outside of the Black community in the 60s, there were long-established eateries, barbecue joints, fisheries, and carry-out spots already serving soul food. Don't be mistaken, soul food is not a monolith. In his book about the cuisine, Adrian Miller describes that soul food's origins can be separated into zones: Chesapeake Bay cuisine around Maryland, Creole and Cajun in the lower Mississippi region, Low Country cuisine in the Carolinas and Georgia, and Black Belt cuisine. In the Chesapeake Bay, they caught blue crabs, made beaten biscuits, and cooked hominy. In the Low Country, they made shrimp and grits and turned rice fields into hoppin' john, okra pilau, and red rice. Creole and Cajun food was heavy on the spice, using okra from West Africa and French influences to make dishes like gumbo and jambalaya. Black Belt food incorporates more pork and corn, like smothered pork chops, pulled pork, and cornbread. Distinct spit roasting, smoking, and barbecue styles developed, with regions arguing to this day about who has the best barbecue recipe. But that needs its own video. Although it was invented over centuries as part of the mostly forced fusion of cultures, it has become one of the most comforting and enduring cuisines of our time. Its origin story is actively platformed by people like chef and historian Michael Twitty, who does reenactments of the daily workload of enslaved cooks. Adrian Miller, Jessica B. Harris, and many more historians have written extensively on the origins of soul food. Some secret soul food recipes are still passed down through generations, through oral traditions, and if you're lucky, you may be able to taste them for yourself. Some of my favorite soul food dishes are fried chicken, collard greens, barbecue ribs, and fried catfish. But the best meals are the ones made with love. Have you had a home-cooked soul food dinner you can't forget? Tell me what was on the plate and who made it in the comments.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm hungry, okay? It's time for dinner.
Yeah, I decided to start with that
Smelling me
because
some cornbread.
right?
You gonna eat your
I
potato
decided
pie.
to start with that one because, of course, that is what I'm most familiar with, and we'll be going into other things too. But yeah, when she said at the end about just the feeling of comfort. There are certain dishes that I will still eat to this day, and it just transports me back to my mama's kitchen, where she would feed me and my cousins lunch and things like that. Of the happiest times are always centered around food. And especially if you come from the South, you visit and everybody's got a pot of something cooking on the stove, right? And you better eat something before you leave the
Okay.
house. You might wind up having like 5 small meals because you're visiting and you're gonna
give it to go meal. Take this in case you get packaged while you're on your way.
Exactly. But yeah, so I decided to start with that because that's something we're all familiar with. But little tease for next, I think Thursday. Are we going to do another segment on Thursday, August?
Yes, we do. Every Tuesdays
I'm gonna
and Thursday.
Yep, I'm going to take you guys overseas.
Ah, that sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Monique. Great job. But one thing I must say is that we need to go into this Fauci case. And guess who's on the job? Miss Anitra, you take it away.
They put Fauci on the couchy. Better watch out for JD Vance. Anyway, Mr. Dr. Fauci is in the hot seat. Senate hearings being chaired by Rand Paul. The main thing, just to frame it for you, if you don't know what's going on, is they called in a special hearing to go over the things that happened and the things that they think when that Dr. Fauci did either wrong or right, and asking some questions in front while he's sworn into Congress. He has a pardon preemptively from Joe Biden. However, he in this hearing evokes his Fifth Amendment right more than 100 times. So there's two other dialogues going on, and I'll just give you those quickly. One is because he is already pardoned, they say he's not eligible to plead the fifth due to a case called Brown versus Walker, I believe it is, 1896, where they said that the guy could not plead the fifth because he wasn't eligible for any crimes because he was pardoned. However, I feel like they were, because Rand Paul has been saying from the beginning, I'm going to lock this man up. So Fauci just said, I'm not going to say nothing. And this is the fallout.
All right. With that said, if you haven't done so, please like and subscribe. If you're not subscribing and you're not liking these videos, guess what? The AAA's plus M, we can go away.
Be clear
We really
today,
need it.
you know, what we've seen. I really did want to hear from Dr. Fauci. I wanted to hear perhaps an apology, perhaps some semblance of being sorry for what happened or that judgment errors were made. We didn't hear any of that. But he was subpoenaed here to testify, refused to answer any questions, even after being directed by the chair and being advised of the law requiring him to do so. He has cited a privilege that is unsupported because of his blanket pardon and because he waived the privilege by testifying at the start. I'm going to give you one more opportunity to comply with the law, limited to the period of your pardon. At any point between January 1st, 2014 and January 19th, 2025, did you destroy any federal record or tell anyone else to?
Under the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Given that you have a unlimited presidential pardon, what is your specific objection that you are making?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
My question was limited to the period of your pardon only. I find your objection unsupported and direct you to answer the question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Because you refuse to answer, citing a privilege that is unsupported because of your pardon, and after being denied to do so, this committee has scheduled a vote next week on a resolution certifying your contempt.
So the person heading that resolution is, I believe his name, I'm looking down here, A.G. James Uthmeyer. And they're trying to look into this, saying that it's a contempt thing. But this is the thing, that pardon doesn't cover any kind of perjury trap that they might do, and it doesn't cover state charges that they could either conjure up or whatever. I'm not saying Dr. Fauci is flawless. I do believe he's a human, though. He's a doctor, but he's a human. He did not make public policy all by himself. He's been in the government for 40 years. All these things. So if he did something, then they know about it. And they're trying to still blame him, say that he's the one that started it with the gain of function research. How did we allow that gain of function research to go on if we weren't complicit as a country? So there's a lot of blame to go around, and I think he's being scapegoated. But let's watch this next video, and I'll tell you a little more.
Well, Anitra, I have 5 words. Stop playing in our faces. They playing in our
my
faces. Exactly.
Cut the game.
For over 54 years, 38 of those as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Over that period, I proved that I believe in and respect the value of legitimate congressional oversight. In fact, I testified before and or briefed Senate and House Senate and House committees well over 200 times over those 38 years. During and after the COVID pandemic, I have appeared multiple times for hearings in the Senate and the House, usually under oath, and sat for several days-long transcribed sworn interviews, answering questions about the very issues that are now the subject of this hearing. However, given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary aimed at embarrassing and intimidating me, the only conclusion I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars, unquote. I served at the NIH for over 54 years, 38 of those as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Over that period, I proved that
This is the thing. So I'm a medical professional, as I mentioned before, a registered nurse with a bachelor's degree. This is for information purposes only. But I was in the trenches during COVID. I was a newer nurse then. I was working in cardiac, and all these things were happening. Nobody knew what, and we had to learn, and there were ebbs and there were flows. And I do not feel that we were, as a country, prepared for this. However it got here, we did the best we could with what we knew. And everybody said, well, this business got closed and this, what would happen if we left everything open? We don't know. So it's a lot of speculation. So I'm going to stand on the side of Dr. Fauci. I'm not 10 toes down, I'm about 7 to 8 toes down. However, I think he did the best he could with the knowledge that he had from previous pandemics. And the outcome was horrible. 1 million people lost or more, but I don't know what would have happened the other way. So anyway, this will sum up how the Democrats and everybody are thinking about it, and more left-leaning people. However, I think it's more of a centrist view, in my opinion.
Hearing appears to be a culmination of months of biased and selected efforts by the majority under the guise of a committee investigation to basically legitimize a predetermined conclusion that was reached years ago. In 2021, the chairman has called for today's witness to be fired, to be arrested, accused him of leading cover-ups and conspiracies. He has even featured the witness prominently in fundraising emails and on the cover of his book. He has also called for the cancellation of the witness's security detail, despite the fact the witness and his family have received numerous credible death threats. When I served as chairman, Senator Paul and I launched a bipartisan biosecurity investigation that included oversight of risky research and the origins of COVID-19, because we agreed that the committee's work would be stronger if we did it in a bipartisan manner and just followed the facts. That was and continues to be an area of legitimate and certainly needed oversight. As chairman, Senator Paul has taken the opposite approach. He has abandoned longstanding practice by blocking minority participation in committee oversight actions and has chosen to selectively release committee records that the minority has never had any access to in order to support his pre-drawn conclusions. The chairman has repeatedly excluded committee's minority and withheld documents and evidence from members that are entitled to receive them, disregarding longstanding Senate rules and committee precedent that have preserved the credibility of our oversight in this committee for decades. I have raised these concerns directly with the chairman because it's not just what we investigate that matters, but how we conduct that investigation. That also matters. One-sided investigations designed to validate predetermined conclusions do not serve the American people who sent us to actually uncover the truth and to solve problems. I wrote to the chairman requesting that he adhere to committee rules. But instead of addressing concerns that I raised, He removed part of the committee's website from the public view. This move not only prevented the public from being able to view those list of concerns, it adds serious questions about the desire for transparency and legitimate oversight of this matter. This hearing appears to be a culmination of months of biased and select.
So, first of all, it's political theater. There's not crap that's going to come out of it, even if he did talk. It's all a bunch of pomp and circumstance. That's our money. That's our time. That's our, our Senate. I don't know. We have so many other things to cover right now. We need to be working on how to prevent the next pandemic. And they say that's what they're doing, but there's been a lot of hearings and they know stuff. So I think they're just trying to scapegoat him and lock him up. But right now, we don't have time for that. We got Donald Trump in the White House, and it's a disaster. And so
This is
we need to
true.
focus on that.
Momo, read Lizzie's comment, please, or someone, anyone.
The only thing Fauci did was instruct people to be the overly cautious because we didn't have enough information yet. He chose to work for our government when he could have worked anywhere around the globe.
You are so right, Lizzie. I had to call that out because they have selective amnesia at this moment. They forgot how we got there. And I'm going to tell you, yes, we may have lost the people that we lost. It would have been most of us will not be sitting here today. Don't forget why Rand Paul is not taking Trump for telling those individuals, oh, just drink some bleach. Oh,
Shine
just
some
put a
light
light
up
up
your
your
keister.
butt. Excuse me?
That's trying to light up your keister.
Exactly. Why are we? It's like the focus is always on the underdog. Again, they're playing in our faces. Great segment. Thank you, Anitra. We really needed to hear that from you. Guys, I hope you liked and subscribe because we're kind of low today. Not a lot of in attendance. You might have previous engagement. It is summertime, and we're so happy that you chose to sit with us. But with that said, we've been real serious today. And Miss Andrea, she got to show you what she's made of.
Alderman Raleigh has introduced an ordinance June the 20th. Donald Trump is not going to be happy about this. The city of Chicago's aldermen are about to rename the street outside the Trump International Hotel and Tower the Barack Hussein Obama Way. What? Yes.
They're gonna put troll in there. They're gonna kill him yet. He's gonna be stroked out.
Okay, I know. I can see him now talk about what? What?
They're not gonna do it.
Well, Andrea is not finished with us. She's hitting us with another one. Let's go ahead and play the tape. I love this one.
My coworker be like, "Hey, what you doing when you get off work? Going home." They be like, "You don't want to go get?" Nah, I'm going home to my wife. Like, so what you got going on? Going home to my wife.
I got to play that twice.
My coworker be like, "Hey, what you doing when you get off work? Going home." They be like, "You don't want to go get?" Nah, I'm going home to my wife. Like, so what you got going on? Going home to my wife.
That beautiful queen he going home to. I hear you.
I'm going home.
He said he going home. All right. And
let's sweet potato or not.
Exactly. He said, nope, I'm going home. I know better. I know what's at home to warm my feet and keep me warm. But Andrea has one more, and we will definitely round it out. We are at the bottom of the hour. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. On Thursday, we have a couple of interesting topics that we'll hit you with. So please tune in. And don't forget, you do have Miss M about to show you what they're made of. But let's go ahead and hear this topic.
And saw that Lindsey Graham had passed away. I was like, that's a very weird way to spell Mitch McConnell. I woke up and saw that Lindsey Graham had passed away. I was like, that's a Very weird way to spell Mitch McConnell.
I had to play that twice. That is a weird way
And
to
by the way,
spell.
Mitch, where you at? Mitch.
Um,
Yeah, where
you
he
know,
is.
Carmen San Diego.
Yes.
You remember they always looking for Carmen San Diego. Now they're looking for Mitch McConnell.
Oh,
So,
Okay.
speaking about Mitch, do you think Mitch is gone? Let's quickly take a poll. Miss Mo.
Oh yeah, I think he's gone. And as soon as the special election date passes, then they're going to come out and announce that he's not there.
Okay, Anitra.
I think that's today, after today. And I'm saying he's out like a light. Like a light.
Hey, like a light.
Talking to
Like a
Jesus
light.
Christ.
Miss Andrea.
Well, it's AAA because and them because I think he's gone too.
Woo,
He
I
looked
can
better
imagine.
dead than he did alive, so you know he gone.
Yes, I
Oh,
rip.
well, on Thursday, I'm going to play a good one for you. We're going to start out with Mitch McConnell on Thursday. So please, we want you to stay tuned. But you know, Miss August and the Triple A's plus Miss M, we always have to leave you with something. So I'm going to ask Miss Mo to start off, then Miss Andrea would take, and we'll take two, and Anitra would take two, and I'll close it out.
Choose happiness every day. It is a choice and you must do it. Appreciate the little things.
Let go of what you can't change. Focus on what truly matters.
Be kind to your mind and heart. And don't forget to enjoy the journey. Stop and laugh at yourself.
And keep in mind, good things are on the way. Thank you for stopping by with us. We always want to leave you with love, peace, and joy. And if you're not feeling that, we're still here. We're going to hug you regardless. Remember, we're here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it is summertime. But you, like Lizzie, Jamie, Connie, you chose to be with us. If I didn't call your name, I'm so sorry. I usually do. Oh, Angry Army Vet. Hey, anybody seen Miss Jazzy? Tell her we sending smoke signals out for her. All right? But hooty hoo. All right. With that said, thank you so much. Time now is 8:35 on the East Coast summertime. Let's get into it and have a great day. Love, 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 and more love.